Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. Today is the introduction of a new radio from Radioddity. This is the first day you'll be able to go to the website and order one of these guys, GD-168. This is a clone of the Anytone 168 and it comes with a couple of really interesting features. Number one is 500,000 contacts. So now you can get a radio that can download the entire DMR database all by itself. Well, I mean, you need the CPS software, but previous radios, you couldn't fit all the DMR contacts in that existed because there were more DMR contacts than there were spots to put them in. It is Type-C programmable and Type-C charging. So this might be the first DMR radio that is USB Type-C programming compatible. Also, this one comes with two different batteries and what all we can do with this thing. In this video, I'm going to show you what comes in the box. I'm going to try and send an APRS message from it. I am going to go through the menus and we'll talk about DMR stuff in a future video coming up on the channel. So be sure you are subscribed for that by clicking the button down below. You wouldn't want to miss that when it comes out. This radio also has a couple of noise reduction and microphone enhancing features to make sure that when band conditions are bad, you can still hear and be heard. Whew! All right, I know I have been waiting for this, so I want to tear right into it myself. We have a fairly thick, this is like 2Cs thick, owner's manual here. I want to do a real quick interjection here. DMR is hard. It is not the easiest thing. I got a lot of respect for the people that took DMR, a business radio communication system where someone sits at a desk and programs radios for a living, 40 hours a week, that's their job, and turned it into a ham radio thing that you can use to contact people locally, on a repeater, or through the internet all over the world. Pretty impressive stuff. And this radio actually does a really good job because you can actually use this radio as a business radio and then have a second DMR ID programmed into it to use it as a ham radio. So now, not only was it difficult and we hammed it, we kind of also unhammed it and added some extra difficulty into it on top of the difficulty it already was difficult. If you're getting into DMR and you're struggling and you're frustrated and you want to throw it out the window, I feel that because that's the way DMR is. But once you get it working, it's fairly rewarding and fairly easy to use after you get over the amazing learning curve, the hockey stick learning curve. Let's get back over to the bench. Yeah, this will tell you how to operate the radio. This will not tell you how to DMR successfully, is what I was getting at. Lots of cool stuff this radio does. This is 100% English, so this is all hours. And it is 46 pages. Nice. Back to the box. Because we don't care about manuals, we don't read them anyway. We have the radio. Look at this. This is a tiny little thing, and you know they don't like it if I don't do this. Got it. Done. All right, so there is the radio, and no battery, but we haven't gotten all the way into the box yet. So let's get all the way into the box. That just sprung right up there. We get a big antenna. The big antenna is, holy moly, little over, the big antenna is about 15 inches. Belt clip, battery. All right, let me dig down deep into this box because this is where it gets interesting. Second battery. We've got a USB-A to USB-C. Don't let that fool you though. Another antenna. This is a chunky one. Look at that. That's pretty good. This one, I like this one. It is 5 1/4 inches. So this is your, work with your hotspot indoors antenna or attach it to your belt antenna. And this is the I need to get the repeater on the edge of town antenna. Wow, it's about a third, obviously, 5 and 15. I can do that kind of math on camera. USB-A power brick, 5 volts, 2000 milliamps or 2 amps for those of us that aren't looking to inflate our numbers. And then we have a USB-C charging dock, and this takes 5 volts, 2 amps in and puts out 8.4 volts, 1 amp to charge the radio. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is get this to be a USB-C to USB-C cable to work with the computer, because I have a computer that was built here recently, but that will work with the charging cradle, the charging dock. All right, let's put this belt clip on before we get too far. Are you a belt clipper? Do you like clipping belts, radios to belts? Most of the time I do not have my radio clipped to my belt, but I do like the option. All right, and before we put the batteries on, let's talk about these a little bit because they are not the same. We are both batteries, but we are not the same. This is 7.4 volts, 2600 milliamp hours, 19.2 watts. And this is 7.4 volts, 1800 milliamp hours, 13.3 watts. So you got a big battery and a little battery. And again, I think it goes with the theme. Like this little battery and this little antenna will be my inside the house hotspot setup, and then this big battery and this big antenna will be my, take the dog for a walk around the neighborhood and still use my home hotspot deal. So up to you. You have options. I like options. I'm the kind of guy that likes options. There are two things that are conspicuously absent with this. Number one is it doesn't have a lanyard. And number two is there's no super secret FBI earpiece to go with this. Taking a walk around the radio, you have your typical DTMF keys on the front. You have your menu and list key on the sides, your up and down arrows, your connectors on the side for speaker, microphone, programming, and charging. Over here you have two programmable buttons, short press, long press, and then you have an additional long press, a longer press, and a push to talk button. Up here you have a channel selector or a VFO knob, and we're in VFO mode. And then over here is your volume control. This radio does not have a flashlight, so that's how they were able to make it so small. They took out all the flashlight logic circuitry and got her running. Pretty cool. We'll put the little antenna on it, see what that looks like. That's not a bad little setup. I like it. And the antenna is SMA female. Are they different? Are they the same? FM 136, 174, 400. This one goes 400 to 520. This one goes 400 to 470. Interesting that the shorter antenna has a longer frequency range. Pretty cool. All right, that's a straight up and down profile when you put it into the charging cradle. There is a little light there that indicates whether it is charged up or not charged up. And this is pretty slim, so it will fit in between other plug-in devices in your world. But what I think is good about this is that this is not an AC plug connected into an AC desk charger, which then you need to have separate cables and everything for everything else. So big win. I like that. Let's take a look at this. Thing is a dust magnet. Booting. Please wait! Exclamation point. Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait. Oh, that's a pretty sexy looking display. Look at that. All right, that was a long boot. Is that like long first boot? Turn that off. Turn it back on. Nope, it's just a long time to boot up. All right, so we've got dual VFOs. And that timeout, that screen timeout is fast. So I gotta find that. Settings, select, radio set, display function, backlight night mode, light time, 5 seconds. Whoa, I don't know what it was set to. I'm gonna set that to 30 seconds. Radio ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, that would be my DMR ID, so I need to change that. Radio name, my radio. It's mine. You can have yours, it's okay. This one's mine. Frequency range 400 to 480, 136 to 174, firmware version 1.02D. Next up, I know you guys are going to want to know about power, so I'm going to get out my Shorecom SW102 and we're going to test the power. The new versions of this Shorecom meter do not come with this ground plane, and it is very necessary. So I will leave a link down below where you can get the ground plane, or you can make a tiger tail and take care of that problem all by yourself, because we're hams. We can fix anything. All right, let's turn her on. Let's get her all set on a frequency, and this is in digital mode, which should not be useful on the test because of the way digital mode works. Yeah, it's showing me 3.2 and 0 and so on, which makes perfect sense because digital is not an always-on transmission. It's kind of fluttering, and it's fluttering faster than this meter can keep up with it. So we need to change this over to analog mode. All right, so now we're at analog mode, and while we're in here, we need to set the power so we know what power we're at. TX power is turbo. Awesome. All right, let's see what turbo power looks like. Turbo power. What we're looking for is the power reading up here in watts and the SWR down here in SWRs. All right, and I am putting out 6 watts at 1.3 to 1 SWR. High power is coming out at 1.5 watts. Middle power is coming out at half a watt. Low power is coming out at 1/10 of a watt. So we're going to want to do turbo power. Okay, let's switch over to UHF. UHF on turbo power is 4.98 watts, 5 watts, at 1.5 to 1 SWR. Not bad on a dual band antenna either. High power is 3.34 watts, middle power 1 watt, and then this is low power 0.4 watts. All right, it's everybody's favorite time. Let's take a look at the menu settings on the radio. What I'm looking for is this thing easy to use? Is it different than other radios? Is it better? Is it worse? Let's go find out. You can add zones straight from the screen. You can scan, or you can do a CDT scan. RxCDT is not open. And now we're scanning. Record, so you can record your contacts as you're making them. Let's turn it on. Record is on. There's no listing of recordings. This is KM9G testing the recording feature. KM9G testing the recording feature. Did it record that? It did. And the volume is pretty low on that because I'm a couple of feet away from the microphone. But there you go, it works. All right, recording is off. And let me show you this real quick. When you're in recording mode, there is a recording icon up on the top of the screen there, so you know that you're in recording mode or not. So I'm going to try and delete just this one. There is no delete just one, there's only delete all. So here is satellite, and this is an interesting feature. This is for satellite tracking and satellite QSOs. So you can do fixed beacons, or you can do satellite predictions. It'll predict passes of satellites overhead. Satellite predicting. Oh, it's predicting passes of upcoming satellites. SO50, nice. And it's going to tell you the path overhead. There is the ISS. Interesting. Digimon is on or off. Digimani is on or off. Single slot or double slot. Any color code, same color code. Any ID, same ID. Slot hold off or on. APRS settings, type none. Select analog APRS or digital APRS. PTT upload, which means when you talk, it will then send an APRS beacon after you're done talking. Transmit power. You can choose the power for the APRS signal itself. Bandwidth, wide or narrow. Transmit frequency. So you can program in a frequency. Edit frequency, 144.640. That's not the right frequency. Not enough zeros. Not enough zeros. There we go. So you have to have the right number of zeros in order to set it. We're going to go down and we're going to select that. Frequency 1 has been selected. So if you are traveling internationally, you can do frequency 1 for US and frequency 2 for UK and so on. Signal path, wide 1-1, so you can edit that. I'm not going to change it. TX text, APRS CN Wi-Fi 4.30V. Edit that to whatever you want. All right, so there is our new APRS message. APRS info is empty. Okay, we haven't received anything. Intervals. I will have it send out every 30 seconds because I'm testing. Beacon, fixed beacon is selected. Okay, so now I've got it set up that it will send out my signal every 30 seconds on 144.390. All right, let's get out another radio here that does APRS. And I just sent out a message. And I think that's it. There it is. TO just got down. Nice. All right, there are also some deeper settings inside of the settings menu option, which, I mean, duh, right? Settings, we have radio set. Inside of radio set, we have voice functions. Inside of voice functions, beep tone, digi idle, anti idle. So what to do when you're idling. I think that's actually your Roger beep setting. Let's double check that. Let's see how good this manual is. Okay, so there's not an index. Okay, so digi-idle and anti-idle. It will alert you when no one is talking. So set if you want a tone when the digital channel is free. Set on if you want a tone when the analog channel is free. Excellent. Now let's get back into settings here and take a look. We're still in voice function. We got past the idles. There's a start sound. There's a talk permit. Talk permit will make it so that you can't transmit in one or the other or both frequencies, which is a pretty interesting setting. DRST tone. Volume level, ear volume, mic sound, normal or mic enhance. Nice. So this mic enhance thing is pretty cool. This is one of the things that Anytone does and all the Anytone clones as well do. And there's a couple of them out there. And real quick, Anytone makes the radio, and then the clone versions in previous DMR radios, each version of the clone radio came with its own special unique sauce that made you want to get that one over the other one and pick the one that's best for you. And so once I figure out what all that stuff is, I'll share that with you too. But the microphone enhance thing, a lot of times on DMR radios, people will have their mic gain turned up way too high, and it sounds a little bit like they're drunk. And that's what it is. So turn your mic gain down, work with somebody on the far end to see how you sound, do a couple of different overs and figure that out. And the radio here has this microphone enhance, which helps clear up some of I've been drinking too much type stuff. So play with it and get a couple of on-air sound reports and see what people think of how you sound both on and off. SMS prompt is an off or a ring. So if somebody was to send me a message, then it would ring or it would not do anything. So that's kind of your silent ringer. Time mute. Receive automatic gain control. Transmit noise reduction. Analog receive noise reduction. There are a ton of features in this thing that most radios don't have. Okay, so display function. We already went in and changed the timeout on the light, and that has worked out very well. Channel name, you can display whether you want the channel name or the frequency name. Language, it only has one language loaded. Exit time, this is the time it takes to exit the menu. Startup, picture, character, or customers. Intro display, character, off, on. Please wait booting. Welcome, Anytone, because this is the Anytone D168 in Radioddity clothing. Startup is customers message. Intro display is customers. So you probably have to program that in the CPS software. So no customer message set, so no customer message displayed. Background, customers 1, does not exist, which is true because I haven't uploaded it. Font color, so you can change this if you think that the white text on the black background is too much. You can do yellow text on a black background. Let's see what that looks like. There you go, so you can see the yellow text up there. Channel color A, let's make that cyan. Channel color B, let's make that blue, because cyan and blue are so different. There we go, so there's cyan on top and blue on the bottom. Blue is a little harder to read. And then you can change your zone colors for A and B. Main channel, channel A or B, you can pick which one is the main channel. And so now you can see the bolder blue, bolder bigger blue. And then you can press, right now, P1, the single button over here on the side. You see how there's one bar or two dots? So that switches between channels on a long press. But again, that is something that is user settable. Subchannel off. There we go, so now there's only one VFO. You can still switch to VFO-B, but you can only see one at a time. And that is all of the display functions. Let's see what the key functions are. So key lock is manual or auto. I always am accidentally putting the key lock on. So short press on PF1 is set to VFO or sub PTT, scan, FM radio, alarm, record switch, record, SMS, dial, GPS info, monitor. I'm going to set that to GPS info. So long press was switching VFOs. Short press is GPS, and there's no GPS in this radio. And so you have short press, long press, and then you have an additional long press, a longer press. Let's look at what other functions are. The power off function. So this thing will turn itself off if you set it to, after so many minutes. I'm going to leave that off. I like mine on all the time. Transmit timer. TOT predict. What is the TOT predict? That's interesting. Okay, we don't know what TOT predict is. Transmit power, AGC, so you can turn that on or off. Frequency step, so you can change that to your liking. Squelch level. Pick 1 through 5 or off. Power save. A couple of power save choices there for you. There's your repeater tone select, if you have one of those that is necessary in your region. Vox, and then Vox has got some thresholds for when Vox opens up. Vox delay. Scan mode. And so these are, it'll do a timeout, it'll do a carrier, or it'll just stay on a frequency until you tell it to start scanning again, is usually what those are. DTMF speed is the inter-character spacing when you're sending DTMF. There's the radio on. So this will work as an FM radio if you're bored and tired of talking to people. FM monitor, start password if you wanted to add a password. So your repeater offsets for VFO-A are either off, positive, or negative. Or for VFO-B, they're either off, positive, or negative. Weather alarm, I like weather alarms. Turn that on. SMS format is the different kinds of SMS there can be. CTC. Or DCS. Program in your time zone. Say whether you want to display the time or not. And since there's no GPS, I can't get the time from GPS. And then you can choose which date format you want. TX preamble, header RPT, CRC ignore, and then we're back to the beginning of the other functions. Let's take a look at the channel settings. New channel, delete channel, channel type. CDT is CTCSS, and then you can pick what your CTCSS is. I don't have any repeaters here to test that out with. OPT signal, if you want to send DTMF or 2-tone or 5-tone. Transmit power setting, we already went over transmit power. Offset for repeater programming. Squelch bandwidth. Reverse. Compander, which is your compressor and your expander to make it sound better. Your scrambler to make it so that only the other people that are on the same scrambler settings with the same radio can hear you. RX frequency, TX frequency. Talk around, which would talk on the repeater's output instead of the input of the repeater. Name, so you can name your channel, but it doesn't work in VFO mode, and I'm in VFO mode. Busy lockout, TX prohibit, and then your own ID. DTMF 2-tone encode and decode, 5-tone encode, beginning of transmission and end of transmission, and your QDC 1200. PTT ID is at the beginning or the end, or both, or off. Work alone. I work alone. And that's it. All right, pretty cool stuff. Well, that's a walk around the front panel of the radio. This thing has some pretty interesting features. I'm going to be having some fun with this on the channel coming up, so make sure you are subscribed for more videos as they come out. Satellite tracking thing looks pretty interesting. I bet there's some way that you download that from the CPS software. We're going to look at the CPS software in a future video. The APRS stuff is also interesting. There are more settings inside of the CPS software for the APRS, and right now it looks like it is beacon only, or you can send specific messages out, but it cannot really receive APRS messages. It can receive SMS messages that are sent over, SMS style messages, that are sent over DMR, and it can also do digital APRS. So we'll play around with that a little bit too. There are some links in the description down below for some more info. There is a discount if you get this thing by clicking that link. There is a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there.